I would like to welcome you to the special council meeting for July 7th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We do have Councillor Mady is just not in attendance yet. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi people, and of the Huron-Wendat people. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. Any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening? Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict, please let us know after. The adoption of the published agenda. I need a mover and a seconder to adopt our special council meeting agenda. Deputy Mayor Shepley supports. Councillor Guerin, any questions? All in favor? It's carried. Verbal presentation from administration. We have Mark Totola here, our Manager of Strategic Communications, regarding our new CityWorks service request portal. Welcome, Mark.
So through the mayor, and thank you, council. I'd like to provide a brief update on the town's Report a Problem platform, which is powered by CityWorks. As you may recall, Report a Problem is an online tool that allows residents to report issues related to town infrastructure, parks, facilities, short-term rental units, bylaws, and much more. Historically, the CityWorks platform was managed, supported, and fully funded by the County of Essex for all local municipalities. However, in 2024, the town was informed that the county would no longer be providing or funding this service. As a result, municipalities were required to take on the responsibility of managing the service independently. In anticipation of this change, the town of Essex proactively included an upgrade to the service request portal in the 2025 capital project budget. This budget, 2024 capital project budget. This budget allocation covered the costs associated with migrating to a standalone platform, including the initial setup fees and the annual operating costs. Following a review of several software options, the town determined that continuing with CityWorks was the most cost-effective and practical solution. It offers the necessary tools and functionality to maintain a high level of service for our residents, and it is familiar to our staff. Since the previous data was hosted on the county servers, the town worked directly with the CityWorks team to migrate to a cloud-based solution. This move has resulted in improved performance, enhanced security, and greater long-term sustainability. Several system enhancements have also been made to improve the overall user experience. So at this time, I'd like to provide you with a brief demonstration of the new system. Thank you. All right, so residents are able to access the Report a Problem platform in the same manner as usual. So they can visit our website and either click on the Report a Problem tab at the top of the page, or they can type in directly essex.ca/reportaproblem, and it will take them to our main landing page here. On this page, they'll find some information. So first off, what is Report a Problem? How they can report a problem both online, in person, or over the phone. Links to both submit a request and also check the status of their request. We've also created a little step-by-step instructional video with Mayor Bondi to help residents navigate the system. And we followed that with step-by-step instructions in terms of how to use the system and how to submit a report. We've also included a list of frequently asked questions, which includes problem types, a summary of problem types, and different examples of what they are. So once the user accesses this page, they can simply click Submit a Report or Submit a Request to access the portal. And it will look slightly different from what they've seen in the past. So this user interface is much more robust and has some additional functionality to it. So the first thing they're prompted to do is choose a problem type. This is what's going to categorize the problem type in our system. So there's a few ways they can do that. They can either start by typing in a keyword of what their issue is. There's also a full listing of all of the categories here as well, if they want to scroll through and select the category that way. There's also a listing here of commonly requested categories. So the system will actually look at what types of requests are most commonly submitted during the season, and it will list those here so that the problem types listed are very seasonal depending on the season. So now you can see that there's grass cutting, roads and sidewalks. In the wintertime, we might see more snow removal and that sort of thing just based on what people are submitting. So in this instance, I'm just going to report a pothole. So we'll type in pothole, and you can see that it brings up the road, sidewalk, and bridges category for me. The next step is going to be for me to provide some additional details on what the problem is. So I'm just going to say large pothole in the middle of the roadway on Talbot. If I want to attach an image or any graphics, I'm able to do that here as well. And then I can click over to the next page. So this page here is where I'm going to identify exactly where the problem is located. And there are a few ways that I can do that as well. So first would be to type in an address, which is our preferred method. And the system will now prompt them to choose an address from the list. So this is going to ensure that we have a full, complete address in the system. In the past, what we were finding was that people would just type in a partial address, and it would be very hard for our staff to know exactly where they were talking about. An alternate way of selecting a location would be to drop a pin on the map. So they can simply just click on a location and drop a pin on any area. In this instance, I'm going to stick with a full address here. And furthermore, if they want to be very specific about where the address is located, they can always click this little draw polygon tool in the bottom right corner here, and they're able to actually draw a shape on any part of the property. So this gives very specific direction to our staff as to where the problem is located. So as an example, if it's at a sports field, it's going to be much easier for our staff to know exactly where the issue is located on the sports field. You can also type in additional details about the location here. So I can say pothole on the southbound lane across from fire hydrant, for example. Once they click next, they're going to be asked to enter their information. So we're going to request a first name, last name. If they want a callback, they can enter a phone number here. And an email address is required. They also have the option to select this checkbox here if they would like a follow-up phone call. If they don't select that, then they will just receive the email notifications to the email address submitted. So once they submit that request, the system will generate a service request number, and it will automatically prompt an email to the user, thanking them for submitting the request and providing that service request number there as well. So another upgrade to the system, if an individual wants to check the status of their ticket at any time, they can simply go back to essex.ca/report-a-problem, click on check service request status, and you'll see in the top right corner here, there's the option to check the service request status. So in order to do that, they're going to need to enter their request number. I'm going to put one in that I previously created, and their last name. So at the moment, what they'll see on this screen is their service request number, the status, so whether it's pending, opened, closed, the investigation date. And we are currently working with the CityWorks team to be able to add comments here as well. So in the future, they will be able to see any comments that our staff has added to the service request to kind of see an ongoing dialogue of commentary from staff. So that's something that's still in the works, and we'll definitely keep council informed as to when that's live. And then finally, I just wanted to play the quick video for you here so you can take a look at the instructional video that we created for residents.
Hi, I'm Mayor Sherry Bondi, and I'm excited to walk you through our newly updated Report a Problem platform. To get started, open your internet browser and visit essex.ca/reportaproblem. This is the central hub for reporting issues related to town infrastructure, parks, facilities, bylaw concerns, short-term rentals, and more. Click the Submit a Request button and begin your report. Start by typing a keyword that best describes your issue. For example, pothole or noise complaint, and choose a problem type from the list. Next, tell us more about the problem. The more detail, the better. If you have a photo, you can upload it here to help us better understand the issue. Now, let's mark the location. Begin by typing the address, or use the red location icon at the top to place a pin on the map. Want to be more precise? Use the Draw a Polygon tool to highlight a specific area. You can also add extra location details that might help our team find the issue faster. Now enter your name and email address. Your phone number is optional. Let us know if you'd like a follow-up call about your request. When you're ready, click Submit. A unique service request number will be assigned, and you'll receive a confirmation email with that number for reference. To check the status of your request anytime, simply return to the system and click the Check the Service Request Status button in the top right-hand corner. Enter your service request number and last name to view the status of your request. Thank you for taking the time to keep the town of Essex a great place to live, work, and play. We appreciate your input and look forward to making improvements together.
All right, so that's just a quick overview of the new Report a Problem platform. Thank you, Mayor Bondi, for being our voiceover star there for the video. I'm happy to take any questions you may have now.
Questions, comments from members of council? Councilor Guerin.
Thanks through the mayor. When you're selecting to put an address in, you'd also said you just drop a pin. When you drop the pin, it doesn't bring the address. It brings you like a map logistic thing. So how do we track the address when you drop a pin?
Yes, so on the back end of the system, when they do drop a pin, our staff will actually be able to see a map of exactly where that pin was dropped. So it's more of like a visual representation of where it's dropped.
The photo area, how large of a file can you upload, and is there any means of being able to drop a video? I see video being very helpful sometimes.
I believe they can drop any file type, whether it's a PDF, a video, a photo. I will confirm that. I don't think we've tested a video, so that's something that we probably should look at. I agree that that could be helpful, but from my understanding, I think they can drop any file type within there, and it will just upload it to the system so that we can access it that way.
Comment I had was on the collection of the required fields. The optional phone number, I always think that this is a great tool, but if you also, it also is a tool for anybody and anyone just to put a complaint on there and do a quick and dirty. I think if it's a serious enough complaint, we should be collecting the phone number and where they live, what their address is. That's just a comment I have. And I still would like to see, I still think it requires council share of some sort on the files. If somebody's making a complaint in my ward, I'd like to just know what the complaint was. So if I never see that person or someone asks me, I want to be in the know, you know, so I still think it needs to have council share.
Thank you through the chair. At the end of when you get the, success, Is there any way for that, instead of it being a green bar, for it to just go to a new screen, success, here's your number? Because I know a lot of people, I did notice that that disappears pretty quickly. So if they're not looking at the top of their screen and they're waiting for the page to refresh with the success number, they might miss it. Is there any way to do that?
That actually is something that we did ask as well, because I did notice the same thing. It pops up for a couple seconds and it disappears fairly quickly, so it's not very usable in that sense. At the moment, there's no way that they can change that, but I did provide that feedback that it's something that they should maybe look at in the future, to, like you say, bring them to a new screen. Thank you for your submission with that number. So currently it's going to trigger that email to them immediately. So that's going to be their best bet in terms of getting that request number, would be to check the email address that they had provided, and it will have the request number there.
When they are uploading a video, or not a video, a photo, if the photo is too large, are they being told that that's the reason their photo is not being uploaded? I have had a couple people try to upload a photo and we think it's because the picture's too large and that's why it's not going through. But on the old system, it never said that. It just wouldn't do it. So has that been updated?
Yes, I believe so. I'm pretty sure now, because they've moved over to the cloud-based service, they can accept much larger file types. So we shouldn't run into that issue as frequently. But my understanding, yes, anything that they enter into the system that is not does not meet the requirements, there are warnings that come up saying that the file is too large, or that they've entered the wrong address, or that sort of thing.
Chair, it's actually directed maybe to CAO Jerusalem. I do agree with Joe that I would like to see what the residents are complaining about, and maybe this is something that we can just get as a summary, like a monthly summary of what kind of things came through. And maybe we don't need to see all of them, but maybe by ward. I would still like to see all of them, to be quite honest, but I don't know how we could do that. So maybe, is there a way to summarize it where it could just go into a spreadsheet of, like, how does the data look at the back end? Is there a way for us to export it into a spreadsheet that we could share amongst the counselors?
Sure. Yes, so there is the option to run reports through the system. So we are able to pull reports at any time for specific timeframes. So if we wanted to do that monthly, we could pull that information into a spreadsheet and have that available.
So, sorry, one more. Do you need both the number and the last name? You need both of them to check up on your report a problem?
That's correct. Yeah, so it requires the service request number and last name.
Then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
I want to make a quick comment on providing council with information in the reporter problem. When we do that, we have to make sure we comply with MFIPA. So some of the information that we provide you, it might need to be redacted or amended to comply with the rules that are around the collection, use, and disclosure of information that we receive. So if we're going to proceed that way, I would just make sure that it complies with the law when we're disclosing it to council.
Thanks to the chair. Regarding that, because I think that if we could export it into like an Excel file, we could remove the columns that have like name and phone number, like the personal stuff, and we could just see the address and the complaint. So we don't need to see what resident is complaining. We just want to see, like, how many complaints are there about that pothole on 33 Talbot Street South? That type of thing.
The chair, we're saying about the same thing. Personal information is usually when you can identify an individual. So if we remove enough information, we make it de-identified, then it's information we can share, but we'd have to be careful to do that.
CAO Jerusalem, sorry, Deputy Mayor, and then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, through the chair. So right now, we currently report annually on our summary of tickets. And I think now with this enhanced being able to categorize, we'll be able to bring more information to council more regularly. So I would look at potentially quarterly, and exactly like Director Malandruclo said, just obviously providing what we can, but it'll give council an idea of where the problematic areas are.
Councillor Guerin.
Thank you, through you. Great work. I like the fact that we're moving, it's definitely moving in a better direction than where we were. And I agree, I think it'd be great if we could have the spreadsheet report on a somewhat basis once that information was removed. Was this system down at all over the last couple of days? Just wondering, because we had some people that tried to get some sent in and they weren't able to. Just wondering if the system was down in order to upload the new one.
The chair. So we did have a little bit of downtime as we migrated to the new system. So there was, I would say, approximately 2.5 days where the system was down. So we did communicate that to residents. The CityWorks platform itself, if they are doing any enhancements to the system and it is going to be down, we do get advance notice of that. So we will share that with the residents as well. But yes, there was a period where there was some downtime due to the migration.
Thank you for that. And I do like probably my most favorite part of this is that they get an email with that number on it. So, because it was a difficult thing before in the past of if they didn't catch that number, then they were left in la la land until they got a response of what happened. So that's excellent that they get that. I appreciate the work, and we're definitely going in the right direction.
Councillor Allard.
Mayor. Yeah, on the email, I think we should ask them to put their email in twice and it has to match, because a lot of times people are putting their email in and it's the wrong email and they're not getting the report back. So if we can have a backup that says to put it in the second time and it has to match, and then we know it's a for sure thing. And then just back to why this whole report problem started back last term of council, it was because it was a great tool for residents to be able to make their problems and go right directly to where the department has to go to. And keeping council from having to bring the problems all the time to administration. Creating spreadsheets after the fact and giving us, I think, is just causing way too much work for administration. How many eyes, when somebody submits a request for a problem, how many eyes within here are seeing that? So why can't more eyes see it? I don't understand that part. We're all on the same team. We're all involved with it. If we don't need to see the person's name or where they live, but we should all be able to see the complaints. I would love to know in Councillor Allard's area that there's something that came up without him having to tell me about it 3 months later. Did you hear about what happened in my ward? No. How would I know? I don't know what's going on in your ward. Like, I'm not a counselor there. If they didn't call you, you might not even know. So I just don't understand why there's such a big issue of getting the information, why we just can't look up on there and go, Ward 1, here's the complaints in the last 30 days live. And they're this and they're that and they're that. I mean, the actual reporter problem is just a resident saying, I'm going to bypass the counselor now. Then I don't have to do it. I'm going to go right to them because they know that that's what they're being told to do. But we have a right to know, there are constituents of what the problems are. That's how I feel anyways. And I think if there's already 5 or 6 eyes seeing it on this end, then what's 8 more eyes seeing it?
Then Councillor Allard.
Fair. So just to comment on the staff resources that it would take, because now the program allows us to categorize it, it's much easier to get those reports. So it won't take or burden staff too much to get those reports. Just another comment on who gets it. So right now, when it goes to a certain department, anyone attached to that department is receiving notification of it. So for example, if it's bylaw officers are attached to that notification. Mark has developed an internal customer service working group. And so I think what we eventually want to see is that, oops, sorry, I'm hearing an alarm, that we're eventually like to see from the customer service working group is we're just taking that report that we're going to be giving to council and everyone else and debriefing on it as to how do we get those issues down and not see the tickets being lodged in the first place. So easier info is going to be obtained, and we do plan to bring that to council as well, what we can.
With the number and the person's last name, a counselor would be able to contact and get the info with their number and name, correct?
Yeah, so through the chair. So in terms of accessing the service request status on behalf of a resident, we would just want to ensure that that resident has provided consent for you to check the status of that ticket. And they would need to provide the service request number as well as their last name. Obviously, we have no control over what information people are submitting, so there could be a lot of private or sensitive information within that service request. So we would just want to make sure that the consent is there and that the resident is providing consent for you to access that ticket status.
I think we're okay. So I just have a few comments myself. So is this new infrastructure or new program easier to use on a cell phone? I know we had a lot of complaints in the last time you'd have to like scroll up that you're not a robot. So that's one. And is there anything on here letting people know that it's confidential? For example, if my neighbor wants to complain on my tall grass, does my neighbor knows that I don't know that he or she was the one that complained?
Yes, so the system is much more mobile friendly. We've tested it out on a variety of mobile devices and it functions very well. And in terms of confidentiality, we have included a confidentiality on the Report a Problem website. So before they click the link to access the portal, there is they will see a blurb there, a confidentiality statement.
My one worry about us getting a spreadsheet in public session is if it does have any identifying information, like even an address. If we have an address, if I'm at 255 Wellington and it says that I, got complaints or did complaints, then that's identifying information. So I think we'd have to be really careful what format that information comes to council in. Any other questions, comments? If not, looking for a mover that the presentation be received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Allard, any questions? All in favor? Carried. See you at our next meeting.